Welcome back, artists. In this video, I'm going to do a painting of the sunflowers that you see here in this photograph. This photograph was taken from my neighbor's yard, and they're really beautiful. I really like them. But I'm going to use, in lieu of just watercolors, I'm going to do it as a line and wash painting using Winsor Newton inks. These are the Winsor Newton inks that I have. I have the 4-jar set. Here's Sunshine Yellow, here's Viridian Green, here's Ultramarine Blue, and then what they call purple, but is really a deep red. The first thing I'm going to do is just do a simple pencil sketch, and then I'll use the inks, and then I'll go over that finally at the end with my watercolor paints. The watercolors work really well with those Winsor Newton inks. But first I'm going to edit this photograph a little bit because it's very busy and hard for the eye to navigate around. So what I'm going to do, I like this one big sunflower here. I'm going to put that in my paper down here as the primary center of interest. Have a couple of these flowers off on the side as secondary interests, but making this one large sunflower the main center of interest. And then have some green leaves and that down at the bottom, and then just some blue sky across the top. So with that in mind, I will set this reference photograph aside off the camera and just do a quick sketch, capture the essence of what it is I'm trying to do. I'll set a little flower off to the left here a little bit. Sometimes the petals get broken or fall off. I'll put them on here a little bit. I think I'll put all of them here. Kind of like in the reference photograph, how the stem comes up at an angle. I think that makes it a little more interesting. And then we've got a great big sunflower leaf here, which I'll do. Put this one pointed down a little bit. I'm going to try to keep the proportions correct on my petals. And I have these little buds here. I'll put one down over here just to balance it out, make it like a new bloom is coming along. And just to remember my centers, the dark centers that sunflowers have, I'll do some cross-hatching here with my pencil. Okay, there's my basic sketch. I think that looks good. The big main flower, one to the left and two to the right. I'll shake my inks up now. Let's try the yellow. Now, I like putting these Winsor Newton inks on in a non-conventional way. I do it a little bit atypically, but I like it because it gives me random results. What these are is just simply bamboo sticks, as you can see. These are small little ones that I took off of my tomato plants that are in my garden. I just took a jackknife and very carefully just put a corner on it, as you can see, put a point on it. Similar to a old-style writing pen, fountain pen. Did that the same on each side. And as you can see, I've got a yellow one, a green one, and a blue one. That, of course, match with the 4 inks that I have, my yellow, red, green, and blue. So since I'm using yellow at this point, I'll use my yellow stick and literally just stick it right in here. And I see my inks have dried out a little bit here, a little bit thick, but that's fine because I just want to put these on here, get some color on. As you can tell, I'm left-handed, and since I'm left-handed, I customarily will do what most people do, and that is put my source of light off the page at 2 o'clock. But these areas that are facing what will be my source of light, I'm going to put this nice, bright, brilliant sunshine yellow into areas facing my source of light. I like to paint in a fast and loose manner, so I'm not worried about really staying too much into lines. I let myself have a little bit of fun, enjoyment, painting outside the lines. I want to be sure I don't accidentally stick my hand in the ink that I just put down on the page. So I'll use my pinky as a reference. Be careful about that. Take a little glob of yellow there. There we go. Now I know this looks like a mess, but by the time we're done, this will look better because the paints will help pull everything together. And I've got another flower down here. I'm going to run my colors off both sides of the page here. I'll anchor it to the sides of the paper. There we go. That's the yellow all globbed on there. Now let's try the green. Okay, my green is not all dried out, so it will behave more like it's supposed to. This is a Viridian green, so it has a lot of blue in it. And I already know attributes of the paints that I'll be using, which is a brighter green. It has more yellow in it, a lot more yellow in it. This one has much more blue, as you can see. And so keeping in mind where my source of light in, which is again off the page at 10 o'clock, I'm applying this mostly in the areas of where my shadows will be. I'm going to have this show these great big sunflower leaves dropping off into nowhere here. Points of them tipping down. Okay, and then our stalks coming up here. Same thing back here. Big main stalk for our main one. Great big leaf here to help use up some of the space. Fill out this corner. Do a little bit of this cross-hatching. And I'm thinking where I'll put my paints in. Again, this is mostly capturing the shadow side of these leaves. And then just randomly here, just to help fill in some of the negative space, I'm just going to put in some random leaf-like shapes. Nothing too descriptive. This will all be a bit fast and loose. And right now this may seem a little bit odd, but I'm going to put a little bit up here. The centers of these sunflowers, as I think most everyone knows, are quite dark. And there's a common way of working with artists. Complementary colors are colors that are opposite of one another on the color wheel. The complementary colors for green is red, which are the Christmas colors. Complementary colors have a unique relationship between one another. When you put them next to one another, they make one another stronger. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. We'll see how successful this is going to be, but I do intend to put some mostly brownish colors in those center areas. I'm going to play with a little bit of complementary colors now. And my red, thankfully, is not dried out. So now in the center, where I want it dark, the center of these flowers, there we go. It makes it a little bit more interesting. I could do the centering here too. The center in that. You can just barely see on my new bloom here that's sitting in there. Okay. Now, just in the interest of using all the colors, maybe touch a little bit down on the flowers a little bit too. Figure out which one is my blue. That's the green. This is the blue. So we'll darken up here at the top. Again, I'm going to come over this with watercolor paints. What I'm going to lighten as I get closer to the flowers. So I'll keep the dark up here well away from the flowers. I can just darken the corner. Again, my dark centers, and put a blue here too. That way it reads properly to the human eye. I'll leave a little bit of a bright spot in each of these areas where the sunlight is coming down. Touch this with a little bit of blue here. I can come across here. See, I can, depend upon how I rotate the stick that I have here, my little bamboo stick, I can get a fine line or a flatter line. And that's why I cut those at an angle like that. And if I want a fatter line, I just flatten it out and get a flatter line, which is really convenient. It makes painting fun. Now, I know this looks a mess, and in all honesty, it is kind of a mess, but once you get more confident with what you're doing, this gets fun, because there's a certain amount of randomness to this whole process that makes the painting process enjoyable. You have all these little happy surprises. All right. Okay, so there's my inks. Now, they're not dry yet. They're sort of half dry, half wet, but I like the way things are looking at so far. I've got my yellows here. I've tied all my shapes together. This is a good design composition. Run my shapes together. They all connect so that the smaller shapes become one larger shape. I have random outside edges, which are good. I've got kind of an arc here to the way my flowers are laid out. I like that composition. I've got the greens down towards the bottom with some blue in it that complements this blue that I'll have up on top. So we'll go some dark up here, then some light areas, and some darker down here. And I think that'll look really appealing when we're done. But I'm done with my inks now. So let's start with, okay, for my paints, customarily in watercolors, we go from lights to darks. That's the way I did the inks here too. I started with my light colors. And I'll do the same thing here. Start with my yellows and just block in the yellows that I have here. This is Hansa yellow, this nice bright, brilliant yellow that I have. It's semi-opaque, which when I use it sometimes as a highlight, will help make it stand out against whatever the backdrop or underlying color might be. Okay, I have a secondary flower down here sitting in the shadows. I'm trying to be cognizant of and staying out of the center area, much as I can. Center area of the flower. And then here's my new bow. Run the yellows off both sides of the page. That helps lock the painting in a little bit. And here, okay, I'm going to come back in here with a little raw sienna because these leaves are recessed right around the center line of the center area. It would be a little bit darker. Several of the farmers in my area grow sunflowers. They're very pretty when they're out in the field. I try a little bit more bright yellow. It's fun to let the two colors, you've got a bright color and a little bit darker, more subdued color, and let them intermingle. A little bit of randomness. Okay, there's my yellow. Let's tackle the green a little bit. This is sap green. This is the light green that I'd mentioned. And I'm largely just going to follow the shapes I had before. Now you notice the Winsor Newton inks are permanent inks. If they haven't quite dried yet, they will run. See, it's running there a little bit. The blue is. I've got a lot of ink there. I can move it around with a wet brush. I might try up here too a little bit, or it doesn't look like it's quite dried. But once it dries, it's permanent. But I like playing with color, so it's fun to push color a little bit, exaggerate it. It makes it more visually appealing, has more impact to the human eye. Now I'm going to intentionally paint outside the lines a little bit here. Kind of make it a little bit messy. Run a few lines here and there. Just a lot of branches and not branches so much, but leaves and stems. Play with A little bit, some light, some dark here, and then a touch some blue here as well, especially down in these shadow areas. This is cobalt blue that I'm putting on here. Now, a little trick when it's still half wet, half dry, when your paint is, come through with some scraping like this, add a little more interest. Introduces more randomness to the painting, more stalks, more leaves. It's a timing issue when you're doing this scraping. You have to get it right about when it's half wet, half dry. If it's too wet, it'll just backfill, and you won't notice the scrapes. So, okay, that's pretty good. So now let's add the dark centers, and they're more of a brown. This is burnt orange that I'm using here over the same area. It is a transparent color, so you see a little bit of the red and blue that I have underneath the underlying colors. That's down here in this small one too. All right, and then this small little one sitting down here. A little bit of yellow right. But I'm going to show the it's starting to come together pretty well. Let's do our skull. All right, remember I said I was going to do dark at top. Here's a little bit of lightest cerulean blue. This is Prussian blue, but I have things that are close enough. I like a little bit of variety. Prussian blue is a very dark blue, so I'll let that run out here. Put that off my page. Down here a little bit. It may seem counterintuitive, but because I know I'm looking a bit messy here, but as long as I'm sort of messy all over, it gives a certain degree of uniformity. It's appealing to the human eye. And that is part of what I love so much about especially watercolors, because it's very much associated with the randomness and immediacy that you get with watercolors. And so since we have blue up here, I can touch a little bit of blue here, these highlight areas, and these areas where the sun would be, where there are a couple up here and up on my petals, even down here in my little bud. And I'm using cerulean blue here for my highlights. This also is a semi-opaque color. I'm going to tie these dark blues together a little bit better. I like this sort of radiant effect I'm getting. And I think I'll scrape here a little bit of red up here. Little goes a long way. Don't need much. And of course the paper's wet, and so it turns to purple, which is good. And then I can do the same thing down here a little. Again, I'm playing with complements. Just some random calligraphy, just some random design. I'm just sort of dancing around the paper here a little bit. Run and fade off. Touch my, maybe scrape a little bit here. All right, there we go. I like that. I think that's really cool. Yes, it is a bit of a hot mess. It's got a certain looseness and randomness to it, but I think that's really part of the joy of painting in a fast and loose style like this. I really like this. Actually, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to splatter a little bit. Pull out all the tricks of the trade here and splatter some more yellow. Load up the brush with the color you want. In this case, bright yellow. My hands are yellow. And just kind of make sure the brush gets really, really wet so it flies off there really well. Okay, there we go. Getting some better paint on the paper. Mix up a little bit more. See if I can get it right on the center area of my flowers. Since I'm being fast and loose here. There we go. I like that. A little bit more pizzazz to the piece. All right, well, I'm going to call that good. I think I set out to do what I accomplished here. Let's look back on the original reference photograph. One big flower off to the side, another secondary one here. I borrowed one of these buds that they have here. Here's a couple of sitting up here, and a flower down here. Here's a little bud too. And set that down here. Kept kind of the same basic arrangement that we see here. Greens down on the bottom. Simplify the top, have this sunshine, or rather this blue sky above, put some blues down below, added a little bit of red. We use the Winsor Newton inks, and you can see how they work well with one another. I really like this. I think this has a certain interest to it. So what I'll do now is let this dry, and then I'll sign it, and then I'll post it and share it with my friends online. So thank you very much, everybody, for following along. Try something like this. Give these Winsor Newton inks a try. They're very fun to use them with your watercolors and see what you find. And if you do that, post what you do on down below in the comments section. I'd love to see the art that you create. Please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.